Hi everyone, Jamie Dunbar here. When we train dogs, our goal is to get to the point where the dog will respond promptly and reliably to a verbal instruction in any situation, even when the dog is at a distance or distracted. The best way to do this is usually with lure-reward training. And while a lot of people understand the first one or maybe two steps of this process, most people don't understand how to finish the job. As a result, their dogs don't listen to them in the situations that matter most. So, in this video, I'll be interviewing my dad, Dr. Ian Dunbar, about the 3 stages of lure-reward training that are essential if you want to truly train a dog. Ian will also be giving lectures in the UK and the US on this very topic. So if you'd like to learn more, you should click the link below to see if he'll be in a city near you. And if he's not coming to a city near you, you can always learn more about this topic on dunbaracademy.com. Okay, let's get to the interview. All right, Dad, in our last interview, you talked about how lure reward training is your favorite way to train a dog, but there are some important things you need to do to make it work. So, what are those important things?
Well, with lure reward training, there are 3 stages. First is you've got to instruct. You've got to teach the dog what you would like it to do. Stage 2, you have to motivate the dog to the max so the dog would like to do the things that you would like it to do. And then 3, you've got to proof. You've got to check that your instructions, your requests or commands or suggestions, whatever you want to call them, will work anytime, anywhere.
All right, well, let's start with that first stage. How do you instruct a dog with lure reward training?
Well, most people are familiar with luring, that you move the lure to move the dog's nose and that will move its body. So you can get them to sit, to lie down, to stand, and so on. They forget the additional parts to stage 1. Now you've used the lure to teach the dog the meaning of your hand movements, you've got to phase out the lure. And once you've done that, you can use your empty-handed hand signals to teach the dog the meaning of the verbal cues. And so I just go cold turkey. I will repeat, come, sit down, sit, stand down, stand, luring 4 times over, and then I just try with no food in my hand. And as we've seen in many videos we post online, most dogs do the whole thing. And so by the 5th, come, sit, down, sit, stand down, stand, the dog does it doing it with an empty hand. If that doesn't work, we can do it bit by bit. Come and sit, good dog, feed from the other hand. Then come sit down, feed from the other hand. But we've got to get that food out of our hand. We don't need it anymore. Okay, we have hand signals. Now we want to use the hand signals to teach verbal cues. And we know that's happening the first time after we say sit, Rover sit. The dog sits after we say sit, but before we signal sit. The dog is now anticipating that the verbal cue predicts the hand signal will come, so we don't need it for the dog to respond. Now we've got verbal cues. The importance of luring is it makes training super quick. There is no quicker reward-based training technique to teach dogs the meaning of verbal cues, which of course is what every dog owner wants.
Okay, well, let's move on to stage 2. How do you motivate your dog to the max?
Well, again, this is where lure reward training reigns supreme. That a lot of trainers use food, but it's the same old food for every behavior. In lure reward training, we use everything. In fact, at the beginning of stage 2, we decrease the amount of food rewards we're giving. Why? To increase their reinforcing power. The more food rewards you give, the less the dog's valued them. But also this makes room for us to use life rewards and interactive games. Now this is where you've got the dog. When you're saying sit, go play, or sit, go sniff, or sit, let's go, we resume the walk, or you're playing fetch or tug or hide and seek. I mean, the dog loves it. He doesn't even know he's in school. The dog can't distinguish between education and having fun. And of course, that's the way it should be. Now, as we motivate the dog, so stage 2 is about teaching the dog to really want to do what you ask. So to recap, if stage 1 was teaching the dog what to do on cue, stage 2 is the motivating the dog to want to do it. At the same time, we now quantify how effective is our training. We calculate response reliability percentages. Because we've cued the response, we can quantify whether the cue was effective or not. Okay? And the response reliability percentage is a combined score of comprehension of the cues we've taught in stage 1 and the dog's motivation or desire to respond, which we do in stage 2. And we want to build up the dog to about 90% reliable in any scenario, that on a single cue.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're starting to talk a little bit about proofing. So that's stage 3. How do you really proof to get that 90% you're hoping for?
Well, we start quantifying actually from the beginning, because it's so motivating for owners. So I will quantify their luring, I will quantify their hand signals and their verbal cues. So they can see that what they're doing is learning. There's nothing more motivating than seeing your dog's percentage scores improving for the dog or for you. We do a lot of proofing in stage 2. I mean, the beauty is we can proof whenever we like, but the biggie is making sure our cued responses will be effective anytime, anywhere. So that's when we move in specific exercises where we teach the dog to respond anytime, anywhere. So we pay particular attention to dogs learn differently from people. If you teach a child to sit on a chair, as I taught you upstairs one day, I tied you to a chair, I seem to remember, you then generalize that concept to sitting on an aeroplane and sitting in church at a wedding. Dogs don't do that. If you teach a dog in the kitchen, you get a good kitchen dog. And when you learn how to calculate these very simple response reliability percentages, a whole world opens up before you. You understand how dogs are different in the way they learn. And this is important, so now owners don't get frustrated. When the dog doesn't respond, he's only not responding because he didn't understand what you said because your back was turned. So we now test the dog. We proof reliability in every conceivable situation, with the most important variable being, what's the owner doing? Are they sitting cross-legged? Then the dog's less likely to respond. If they uncross their legs and stand up before giving a cue, they're more likely to respond. If you have a drink in your hand, they're less likely. All these things we have to take into account, but a massive one is when you move from the kitchen, where most people train at mealtime, to just your yard, you're going to take a 40 to 50% whack in response reliability. If you go through your front door, we have this on tape. When we were training Billy the other day, he scored 99% in stores. Then quickly, within seconds, we went outdoors to the sidewalk and it dropped to, I haven't actually added it up, but I bet you it's less than 20%. So once you now understand this proofing process, we know where to put our practice when training. And to me, it's fascinating, the things that will reduce a dog's likelihood to respond. Most owners know, yes, squirrels are the dogs, but there's a lot of other stuff too, like, are you humming? Are you smiling? Are you depressed? These will all alter your dog's likelihood to response. And this is now when we get a really good insight into the dog's brain as to how he's feeling.
All right. Well, that's really interesting, and I think that gives our viewers a lot to think about. Thank you very much for talking with me on this topic. And I'll
really happy about it, Jamie.
I'll see you next time, Dad.
Thank you. And thank you for listening, guys.
Thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to see Dr. Ian Dunbar in person, here's a list of his 2024 dates and locations in the UK and US. And if you'd like to learn more about these seminars or purchase tickets, there's a link in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.